there's something wrong with society today that people can believe things like flat earth and other conspiracy things. To me, it's brainwashing.
Okay, so this is Who Said It. I'm going to jump right into the first quote. One of the arguments that people give is, what's up, everyone? I'm back, and today I'm joined by the debunker from down under, Critical Think. How's it going, man? Thank you for joining me.
Doing great. Thanks very much for having me on the show.
My pleasure. And as I mentioned in the intro, Critical Think here is heading all the way to Antarctica to participate in the final experiment. What's up, everyone? Quick note, I really want to help support my guest, Critical Think, in his journey to Antarctica. So if you can't go to his GoFundMe and support him directly, all you have to do is leave a comment below, because every comment I receive on this video up until December 14th when he leaves, I will donate 50 cents to his GoFundMe. Now, that might not sound like a lot, 50 cents per comment, but on my last video, which was an interview with Will Duffy, I received 1,600 comments. That would translate to $800 US for Critical Think. So, leave a comment below, leave 10 comments below, and I will donate 50 cents per comment to his cause. Oh yeah, and to support me, I'd really appreciate it if you hit those like and subscribe buttons below. It goes a long way, and I'd really appreciate it. Thanks. Back to the video. Now, Critical Think. Some might say, why does it even matter if strangers on the internet believe the earth is flat? How would you respond to that, and why do you invest so much time, effort, and now money into debunking flat earth theory on YouTube?
Wow, that's an interesting question. Certainly, it's, to me, these kind of beliefs that there's something wrong with society today that people can believe things like flat earth and other conspiracy things, and any effort to try to show people that they may be wrong about something, even though they're 100% convinced that they are correct. Now, if I can do my part in terms of going to Antarctica and documenting the 24-hour sun, and that will help a few people wake up from whatever it is that this brainwashing, to me it's brainwashing, that they're subject to, that they can believe something that's so obviously not true, and anything I can do to help counteract that, that's what I'm about.
Yeah, I have to say, what sets you apart is that you don't just rely on explaining the science. You've done tons of experiments yourself. Not every debunker goes that extra mile, but you do. That brings me to this trip to Antarctica. There's actually more than one experiment happening during this trip. The primary focus is, of course, whether or not there's a 24-hour sun there. But as someone who's studied physics, particularly classical mechanics, I find your experiment regarding the variation in weight due to latitude really fascinating. Could you pull up that chart I've seen in your videos and explain to everyone what it's about and how Antarctica might provide the final piece to this puzzle?
Yeah, I'll pull that up. Here's the data that I've analysed. It's been collected by largely myself, but there's other people. So we've got Wolfie started all this out, and is it okay if I tell the story about how I got into this?
Yeah, of course.
So how I started with this weight change versus latitude is Wolfie 6020. In the days when he was doing many more videos, he come up with some really good stuff, and then he did this experiment where he took an El Cheapo scale to various parts of Australia and measured differences and explained why the difference. And I was absolutely gobsmacked and fascinated by this, because I thought, yeah, sure, it might be a bit different, but can you really measure it? I was like, wow, that's amazing. And so I thought, hey, I got to do this. So I got a set of scales, and I started travelling. And then I had to do all the maths. And there was just make sure I got all the maths right with the predictions and everything. because I wanted to do it in an engineering and scientific way. So I developed spreadsheets and Python programs over the years to correctly analyse this, and it still fascinates me to this day. But the very first time I went out to do my first measurement, I was as nervous as heck, because I'm going, I'm predicting this to be this weight. When I go there, will it really weigh like that? Will this? I was hoping that the maths was correct, the science is correct, and I think, who would have thought that you'd actually measure this difference? Who would have thought? This is my thought, right? Who would have thought that the rotation of the Earth would make such a difference? You could see it on the scales. I mean, it's such a good thing, because it doesn't depend on any visual observation over water, for example, where refraction, and there's no optical argument against it, right? How can you argue against this? It's just a straight measurement. It's such a slight difference. You could not feel any difference in your own body. You could not feel any of these changes. You have to have an instrument to measure it. And we can buy a cheap enough instrument to be able to do this ourselves without having to spend thousands upon thousands on precision instrument. This is such a fantastic experiment, in my opinion.
Many viewers will not have seen your video on this. Could you explain what we're looking at here, particularly what the horizontal lines represent?
Yeah. All these measurements done at various times, and one of them's by a flat earther and a few globers, and I've done quite a few measurements. Now, I've fitted them on a graph where latitude is the only variable. Now, the measurements would have been taken at different heights. I have to adjust those points so that they don't go all over the place. That just eliminates one independent variable, which is height. And so this is just versus latitude. And the prediction for the WGS 84 model is this green line. It goes up here. And as you can see, all the points are clustered around that line there. Now, I've also drawn a couple of other lines on there which represent other models. So just if the Earth was a sphere, rotating sphere, then the points would be expected to cluster around this purple line. If the sphere that we live on was oblate but not rotating, then the points should cluster around this brown line, and if the Earth were flat, the points should cluster around this cyan-coloured line there. So this is very powerful evidence that we're both rotating and oblate, because these points very clearly statistically state that it fits pretty much exactly the rotating spheroid, the WGS 84 model. Now, I've plotted up here. So these are a couple of extra points which we will generate on the trip to Antarctica. This one, Union Glacier, which is at 80 degrees south. Now, it's 750 metres above sea level, so the actual weight will be a little bit less than this, but when adjusted for height, it should come there. And Punta Arenas, which should come in that area there. So that's basically what we're doing.
Yeah, that's super cool that you're going to get the opportunity to do Punta Arenas and Antarctica. These measurements and these points are the weighing of a 1 kilogram weight. Where's the initial baseline taken here?
When I start at my home. I calibrate the scale at my home. I don't change the calibration, otherwise you would not get this graph, right? Because we're relying on the calibration. You need to calibrate at every location on Earth so that the scales are accurate. So the reason why the scales are not accurate is the exact thing we're trying to measure. So we calibrate once, measure many times. Don't always use a kilogram weight. It depends on the scale, but I have to scale everything according to become a standard number to be able to plot it together on the graph. But I've got all all the routines for doing that and everything.
Great. Okay. I think this is one of the pieces of evidence and experiments that I've ever heard. And I'm wondering, has flat earthers ever pushed back or responded to all this data and this evidence?
Yeah, for starters, it's very difficult for them to understand it because most flat earthers don't have an education, don't understand science and maths. So that's a little bit difficult in the beginning. But many of them try to dismiss it by saying, oh, you haven't taken into account the changes in magnetism, air density, the colour of the trees in your location, or whatever. They don't know. They just think something must be, because the Earth must be flat. Then there must be an excuse, and any excuse will do. So no one has actually been able to understand how significant this is, because even if you talk about the fact that there are local gravity variations, the density may affect your weight, the temperature may affect your weight, all of those things are very small compared to the points that are plotted. And you can see a lot of those things will appear in the fact that there's scattered dots. I mean, you've got measurement error, and all of these things may, if the temperature of the scale varies a little bit with temperature, yes, they can, but it's smaller than the difference in measurement that you're measuring. And this is the engineering and the science, with measurement. If your errors are smaller than your expected difference, then you can basically not so totally ignore the errors, but they will cause a scattering like you see on that graph. But once you do the statistical analysis, it's just that there is no other plausible explanation for how these weights can be so different in different locations, and especially when you correlate it to the expected factors. So you've got, if we've got oblateness, if we've got rotation, we can calculate what we expect the weight to be. Now, no random variation in density, temperature, whatever, can possibly explain this graph. And it'd be like people say, well, 100 monkeys on 100 typewriters, maybe one of them will type a novel. And there's probably about the exact same likelihood of this being the effects of random variations in density, temperature, whatever you want, magnetism, whatever. But there's not only that. I did a run up the coast of Queensland here in Australia where I took all these measurements, magnetism, density, temperature, and I plotted them all out. There's no significant correlation to the change in weight. So I've done the science, I've done the measurements, I've even put a huge magnet from a speaker right next to my scales just to show that magnetism doesn't change it.
It is a lot for someone who doesn't have a background in physics, right? So I was going to ask you what you thought was the best piece of evidence for a globe for a flat earther. And if it wasn't for that last part, this might be the answer as the best piece of evidence. However, as you said, it's a little bit dense and hard to wrap your head around, and especially for them.
Yeah, so in terms of best, that's difficult because there are many pieces of evidence for the globe. The best evidence for the globe is the sheer volume of evidence, that every single measurement and observation is congruent with the Earth being the globe that we know. Now, flat earthers try to make exceptions. This is because of their misunderstanding of science and physics and everything else, but I can with 100% certainty say every single observation that I have made, every measurement I have made, it all fits the globe, and it certainly disproves the flat Earth. Now, in terms of what is one single one, Now, there are a lot that you could point to, and I think that this is where I think the final experiment is good, because this is one that the flat earthers have more or less agreed to. Right? They said the 24-hour sun, for years they said there's no 24-hour sun in Antarctica. So this, to me, that's the best one because of that. Now, there are many other things that are very simple to do. So, couple I think of, sunrise, sunset. It's impossible for the sun to rise and set on a flat earth, but they give all kinds of excuses like the sun must be far away because of perspective. Now, it's true that the sun will go down lower in the sky due to perspective, but they don't know that it has to be 115 million miles away for it to actually get near the horizon. They, if you say, well, how far must the sun be to be on the sunset on a flat earth? No one can answer that. And because they like to keep in their head that the sun goes far away, that's why it sets. So to me, a sunset, sunrise every day is one of the good things. The other thing is pre-dawn crepuscular rays and anti-crepuscular rays. Now, I've captured some of those. The crepuscular rays pre-dawn will come back to a focus point that's below the level of the ocean. Now, if you really are a flat earther that believes crepuscular rays show that the sun is local, then you would also have to say that the sun is below the ocean at some point, which of course is ridiculous. And then there's always the horizon drop. The horizon drop is a very easy to see evidence of the globe, because on a flat earth there would be none, but there's always some excuse why flat earthers dismiss horizon drop, even though to me it's very obvious. It's a very obvious thing and easy to measure. So with the weight change versus latitude, of course that is my favourite, and I've got fascinated with that. I mean, it's such a good thing because it doesn't depend on any visual observation over water, for example, where refraction, and there's no optical argument against it, right? How can you argue against this? It's just a straight measurement, and it's such a slight difference. You could not feel any difference in your own body. You could not feel any of these changes. You have to have an instrument to measure it. And we can buy a cheap enough instrument to be able to do this ourselves without having to spend thousands upon thousands on precision instrument. This is such a fantastic experiment, in my opinion.
Okay, I want to circle back to the trip you're about to go on. Do you know if Jaron, Whitsitt, or any of the others have a plan for how they're going to handle sleep? Everyone else will want to avoid gaps where all the flat earthers are asleep at the same time and unable to confirm whether the sun set or not during that period. Are they planning to sleep in shifts as far as you know?
Or don't have a concrete plan. The shifts thing has been mentioned. So I think everybody's worried about how they will be able to get some sleep. So I think we're still to come up with a plan with that. So Jaron and Whitsitt will be in one tent together. I don't know what the other arrangements are. Yeah, I think it's going to have to turn out that there will have to be shifts.
Yeah, I would hope so. And another thing I heard, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that at the base camp there's a mountain close enough to obscure the sun during part of the day. I believe you were the one who actually brought that up, or brought that to Will's attention. Is that the case? And if so, how are you planning to handle that?
Yeah, so what happened was I was talking to ALE about our requirements for filming and that, and I gave them, I told them what we wanted to do. They gave a form to fill out, and then I told them everything we wanted to do, and with the particular thing about the 24-hour sun. Now, ALE, of course, are familiar with the site, and they knew that where the camp was, the sun will go behind Mount Rossman. And they probably thought correctly that this, may give flat earthers an excuse to say the sun's not in the sky. And so At first, they were going to tell us they were going to set up a separate area where they know that you will be able to see the sun at midnight. And then maybe it looks like it has morphed now into being, maybe we will be sleeping there as well. As that seems to be the change. But initially, ALE suggested a separate campsite a couple of kilometres away from the main camp. They also said that they will provide transport. So even if we do sleep in that other location, we have to be able to get back to the kitchen to eat meals and whatever. So we're not sure exactly how it's all going to work out, but I'm sure that these things will be sorted out.
It's good that they caught this issue with the mountain, though. It would have really put a damper on the whole experiment if that wasn't planned for ahead of time.
Yes, yeah, they've been very good.
Have you spoken to Jaren or Austin at all? And have you watched much of their content, or do you generally avoid interacting with them?
So, of course, being in the community, I am aware of their content, and I have spoken to Jaren privately a little bit. And Whitsit, no, I have not. In terms of... So I do watch some of Whitsit's material, and it's very interesting. I have a flat Earth friend. I'd known this guy for a while. Didn't know he was a flat earther until one day we were talking. And he's actually going to be part of this experiment too, so I'm going to live call him, hopefully from Union Glacier. And this friend of mine, he says, Whitsit, he thinks Whitsit is really clever. He thinks he's one of the smartest guys in the world. And I said to him, he doesn't know anything, he's just a bunch of word salad. He just talks and talks and talks and talks and hope that he makes enough words and uses enough big words. The old flat earthers are wide-eyed. I accidentally called him Witless, didn't I? Whitsit, he must be so clever because he can use all these big words. And I told my flat earther mate that no, he doesn't know what he's talking about. But he doesn't believe me. He believes Whitsit. He believes Whitsit is a very clever guy, and that he's hoping, this flat Earth friend of mine is hoping that I would get to debate Whitsit one day, and Whitsit would wipe the floor with me, and I would really love the opportunity. But anyway, I don't know if it will come up or not. But yeah, that's.
That's interesting. He must be a pretty good friend. What does he expect to happen on this trip? Has he mentioned what he thinks you'll see regarding the sun in the sky?
Well, yes, he's adamant that the sun will set. So I've got that out.
Really? And if you tell him it didn't set, do you think he'll believe you?
I'm hoping, because what I intend to do, and we hope to have our internet, I'm hoping to live stream a call with him at midnight on Union Glacier, and I'm going to ask him, where's the sun? And he's going to look up in the sky. He says, it's above me. I said, yeah, we can see it too.
I wonder, what do you think will happen with Whitsit and Jaren? Do you think they'll be honest and admit the sun stayed up in the sky the entire time? And if they do, is that it for them? Do you think this could be Jaren's way of finally walking away from the flat Earth?
Jaren will be honest, and Whitsit will have to follow. He cannot deny he will see the sun in the sky. The prediction of many globers, and myself included, is that they will just switch to different conspiracies. And flat Earth will live on in other people's delusional minds. The call is that Whitsit will switch to geocentrism, and Jaren, he's got a whole bunch of conspiracies he likes to engage in. That's his thing. So flat Earth will have to be struck off the list for Jaren.
Yeah, how many experiments does Jaren need to do to prove the globe? This might be the final nail in the coffin for flat Earth, at least for him.
He's going to have to admit that the flat Earth is done after this. I'm sure about that.
Yeah, how could you continue to truly believe the Earth is flat after getting the results he has, especially the one from the Behind the Curve documentary, and now this? If he still insists the Earth is flat after this, I think he just loses all credibility. I want to respect your time, and since we've been at this for a while, but I've got a little game I created specifically for our conversation. It's called Who Said It? And I'm going to share my screen, and as I described earlier, I have 11 quotes from flat earthers, each with 4 or 5 choices. Let's see if you can identify who said it, and maybe the audience can play along too. Okay, so this is Who Said It. I'm going to jump right into the first quote. One of the arguments that people give is, on a flat Earth, you can't have a 24-hour sun, a midnight sun in Antarctica. And I totally agree, but there is no midnight sun in Antarctica. Choices are Jaron, Flat Earth Dave, Nathan Oakley, or Dean Odell.
Oh, that's a tricky one, but I'm going to go Dean Odell.
Going Dean Odell. Okay, I thought you would recognize this one. I've heard this so many times.
Yeah.
It's been played over and over again, including by Will. The correct answer is Flat Earth Dave. Dave is on record saying that there will be no midnight sun in Antarctica. I will be looking forward to seeing how he responds to the results of the final experiment. Okay, quote number 2. Anybody telling you that the 24-hour sun in Antarctica doesn't matter is an effing liar. Why? Because it's impossible on our mother effing model. We got Witsit, Jaron, Nathan Oakley, and Flatzoid.
That's Jaron.
That was, in fact, Jaron. Kudos to Jaron for saying that. Okay, I'm going to move on to quote 3. They're going to see daylight. They're not going to see the sun. And note, we're able to explain the daylight because of the dome. They can't because they need to see the little sun the whole 24 hours, and there isn't one. Choices are Witsit, Nathan Oakley, Flatzoid, and Phuket Word.
So I think it would be B or C, but I'm going for Flatzoid.
That was indeed Flatzoid. He is a big believer in the dome or firmament because, well, according to him, the Bible says so. Let's go on to quote 4. The reality of our world is that in both models, we're supposed to have a 24-hour sun. In the flat Earth model, we say there isn't a 24-hour sun in the south, and there isn't. And there is a 24-hour sun in the north, and there is. Is this Flat Earth Dave, Eric Dubay, Nathan Oakley, or Dean Odell?
I'm going to go with Flat Earth Dave on that one.
Not this time. That was actually Nathan Oakley, who is on record saying that there is no 24-hour sun on their model in the south during the southern summer. Moving on, quote 5, there is in fact never 24-hour sunlight anywhere in Antarctica because even when the sun reaches its outermost circuit over the Tropic of Capricorn, the entirety of the Antarctic circumference cannot be reached by its light at any one time. Is that Flat Earth Dave, Jaron, Dubay, or Dean Odell?
Of course I remember this quote, but I cannot remember who was the particular floody that said it. No, I'm going to go for Eric Dubay on that one.
You got it spot on. That was, in fact, Eric Dubay. Okay, next quote, we're up to quote number 6. Easy to prove, but they hide this from us too. All we'd have to do to prove is go to Antarctica. Let me and you go to Antarctica, spend a week there in the summer, and let's see if the sun does a 360-degree circle all the way around us. If so, it's a ball.
Dean Odell.
Dean Odell, you are correct. Dean Odell is on record saying it's a ball if the sun doesn't set and circles 360 degrees around you. All right, let's move on to quote 7. The Antarctic Treaty prevents you. Nobody's allowed to go to Antarctica. You're not allowed to explore there.
Well, I don't know exactly, but it sounds like something Flat Earth Dave would say.
That does sound like something Flat Earth Dave would say because he in fact did say it. Good call there. Yeah, so Flat Earth Dave is also on record saying that you can't even go to Antarctica, which is hilarious because people go there every day and all year long. So going on to quote 8, I think this is a gimme for you. A kilogram is a kilogram anywhere on Earth, exclamation point.
Yes, that's Phuket Word.
Yeah, you didn't even need choices there. That was, of course, Phuket word. Good job. All right. Quote 9. The midnight sun phenomenon must also occur for observers south of the Arctic Circle during winter solstice. Depending on how far south the observer is, the sun should be seen for several days or weeks, never fully setting, just like it does in the north. In reality, however, there is never 24 hours of sunlight anywhere in Antarctica at any time of year.
So I'm thinking Eric Dubay on that one. Eric Dubay.
All right, spot on. Eric Dubay. We've got 2 more. Let's jump into quote 10. We know that you can get daylight sunlight, but you don't see the sun in the sky for 24 hours. On a globe, there needs to be the sun in the sky for 24 hours. Was this Austin Whitsitt, Jaron, Nathan Oakley, Flatzoid, or Phuket word?
Oh, difficult one, but sounds a bit like Flatzoid. I'm guessing Flatzoid.
That does sound like Flatzoid, so it wasn't a bad guess in my opinion. But yeah, that was a quote from Whitsitt. Okay, final quote. If there's something that is impossible, that you are just going to say, I believe what I believe, even though it has an impossibility, I have a problem with that.
No, that would be Jaron.
You are correct. That was Jaron, and good on you, Jaron. He's right on. They should have a problem with that. All right. I believe you got 8 out of 11 correct. You've been in the game a long time. You know these characters really well. Nice job.
Interesting game. Interesting game, that one.
All right. I hope you enjoyed that. Let me stop sharing. Okay, Critical Think, I'm having a lot of fun, but I don't want to keep you all day, so I'm going to let you go. However, before I do, is there anything you'd like to say or share with the viewers?
Yeah, certainly. As you know, I'm going to Antarctica, and I've got a GoFundMe for this. It's a hell of a lot of money to go to Antarctica. And I've had a few people generously help me. Now, I don't normally ask for money. I've done all this over the years from my own pocket, but this one's a bit much, and I do need the help. It would be great to have some more help. Thank you very much for all those that have helped so far. Any donations would be gratefully received. And this is if you believe in the cause, I think it's a great idea for you to help out.
Definitely. If you'd like to support Critical Think and his quest to save flat earthers from this flat earth nonsense they unfortunately have fallen into, the link for his GoFundMe will, of course, be in the description below, as well as the link to his channel in case you'd like to follow him on his trip to Antarctica. Critical Think, it was great meeting you and chatting with you. Have a safe trip. I can't wait to see what comes of it. Tell the other guys I said hello, and I hope to speak to you again down the road.
Thanks, Mopped. Thanks very much for giving me the opportunity to talk like this. And we spreading the word. This is good because this is going to be fantastic. This is going to be epic.
Absolutely. I will hopefully talk to you again soon. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, everyone. Thanks for watching. If you've made it this far, make sure you're subscribed and check out some of my other videos. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.